Hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar on using OCR technology in your investigations. My name is John Pearce and I'll be presenting this webinar today. So what is OCR and why is it important? OCR stands for Optical Character Recognition or Optical Character Reader. It is basically the electronic or mechanical conversion of images containing handwritten, typed or printed text into machine-coded text. So examples are text contained in scanned documents, a photograph of a document, maybe a photograph of the environment which has objects such as signs with text in them, and those sorts of things. The OCR process digitizes printed text so that they can be electronically read and or edited. And this is important when you're running searches which include search terms, keyword lists or even regular expressions. These search methods would not work without first converting the image text into an electronic format, and subsequently you could miss important documents when running your searches if you have not completed the OCR process before running those searches. Intella uses OCR technology developed by one of the world leading OCR companies, which is Abby. So Intella, or both Intella and Connect, come with Abby Fine Reader technology embedded in those packages, and that allows you to manage your OCR requirements for your cases. So the best way to show how OCR technology can be used in a case is to show a demo. So here is a typical false invoicing fraud example, and this is what we know about this case. So an employee who works at Bob's Construction has overheard someone else discussing a fraud that they were undertaking. The informant could not hear the conversation very well, so they did not get a lot of details, but what they did hear is something about roof rafters for a monetary value of around $26,000. So once hearing this information, you have covertly created a forensic copy of the suspect's computer system, and that data has been indexed into an Intella case and it's ready for review. So let's go into Intella and see what we can find with the information that we have. So I have a case set up here, and for this example, let's say this is the suspect's computer that we've indexed into the case, and we're ready to run some searches. Now we do know that they were talking about roof rafters, so maybe the first word we could search for is roof, and we have 7 hits for that. And if we just open this out here, we can see that most of these hits are sort of to do with the browser cache, so they're probably not relevant, but there is an email here, and we can have a look at that. But this is not a fraudulent document or not what we're looking for. So no hits for the word roof. Let's try rafters, and we get no hits for the word rafters. And the last piece of information we had was $26,000 that they were talking about. We have a couple of hits for that. And let's review these emails, and these are not what we're looking for either. So where does that leave us? Well, leaves us with, we haven't found anything in the case yet. Now, having done a number of these investigations, what we find is the perpetrators try to hide their tracks. And one method they use is using scanned documents. So if they were suspected of the fraud or some type of fraud and their computer got searched, they wouldn't be able to, or the people searching their computer wouldn't be able to find those fraudulent documents because their scanned images and keywords wouldn't work on them. With that in mind, what we should be doing with these types of investigations is doing OCR processing on documents that are what we call empty documents. And in the features facet here, we actually have a facet called empty documents. So if we run a search on that, we end up with 93 documents which are empty. So what is an empty document, and how that's worked out is the document has a size, so it's not 0 bytes, it actually has something, but no text has been extracted from it. So that means that maybe it's a PDF that is scanned, so there's content in it, but there's no underlying text that can be extracted from it. So there's 96 items there, and typically when people are doing these types of frauds, they're using a word processing type document, so Word or PDF or something like that. So if we do a search on the documents type, then we end up with 8 items that are potentially our documents that we should be OCRing. And just to clean this up a little bit, I'll go back to the features, and I want to just remove anything that's encrypted because we're not going to be able to OCR anything that's encrypted. So I go down to exclude. That leaves us with 6 documents that we need to OCR. So first thing I'm going to do here is tag these items. Empty docs. And then I can clear the search off and just go to the tag and bring those items up. Now remember, this is just an example. There's only 6 items here. If this was a real case, I could open these 6 items and read them in a couple of minutes. However, if it was a real case, you could have 100 or thousands of documents in here that need to be OCR'd. The next steps is we need to OCR them. Now there's 2 ways to OCR them in Untitled. We can OCR a single document, or we can OCR all of the documents. So we'll just step through both those scenarios. If I open this first document, I can see in the Contents tab that there's nothing here. Typically, if this was a Word document that had text in it, all the text would be stripped out and it will be put into the Contents tab. So this sort of reinforces the case that this is an empty document. In the Preview tab, we can see that the preview of the document itself. This is the Untitled dongle activation guide, and it is a scanned document. So you've got text in there and you've got images in there, but there's no actual underlying text. So to search this document, this will need to be OCR'd. And to OCR the single document, there's the option down here on the left. We click on that, and that brings up the OCR wizard. And let's have a look at some of the settings here. So under Profile, we have accuracy and speed. Basically, that would give you better accuracy, lower speed, or maybe if you go for speed, it's a lot faster, but it's not so accurate. If you're doing an investigation for this, fraud types investigations, and you're relying on OCR to try and OCR the text so that you can use keyword searches to search it, I would always opt for accuracy. I would sacrifice speed, because if you chose speed and you missed, the OCR engine didn't pick up those words, then you're not going to be able to find those documents. So best practice is probably go for accuracy. Languages, English is by default. If this was in a foreign country with a foreign document, you can select a variety of languages here. The output format is plain text by default, but there is another option, PDF. So I'll just explain what these do. Once we have the document OCR'd, we get, with the plain text option, we get an OCR tab up the top here. Now the OCR tab is just like the Contents tab, and all it does is it OCRs the text in the document and strips it out and puts it into an OCR tab. So just like the Contents tab for a regular document. If we choose the PDF option, we get the OCR tab, and we also get a OCR preview tab, which is just like the preview tab, which we can see here, but Untitled embeds the text into the document as well. So then you can start using your select tool to highlight text and copy it out if you need to do that. Detect page orientation and correct inverted images. So that's kind of self-explanatory what they do. And then we just click on OK to start the OCR process. Now any duplicates of this document will be OCR'd as well. This percentage shows you the percentage of this one document. If it was 10 documents, then it would be the percentage over 10 documents. Once that's done, it moves into the processing the OCR results phase, and then it will import the text, and then it will update the database. And that's now complete. Now, if you're doing a bunch of documents and there were some errors, you can actually save a report and go into the report and find out what was the issue there. Typically, what it is well, a lot of the time it's you've got encrypted documents and they can't be opened because they're encrypted, so they can't be OCR'd. Let's close that. So that's how you OCR a single document. Now let's go to our 6 documents, and if we want to OCR these in one batch, we can select them all, right click, we go down to process, and then we go to OCR option. And it brings up the wizard again. There's a different sort of first page. Now by default this is the AVI Fine Reader, so this is the embedded OCR engine inside Inteller and Connect, and there's only 6 items here. If I had, say, 100,000 items and I had a distributed OCR platform separate to Inteller, like AVI, then I could use this option here. So typically, AVI Recognition Server is more for bulk OCR processes. So you'd have a bunch of machines that will all be set up with AVI Recognition Server, and you would have a master machine that controls it all, and it just splits all the documents up into these other working machines, and it makes your OCR process very, very fast. And we can incorporate directly into that system with these options here. And the last option is if you do have another OCR tool but not AVI, maybe it's something like OmniPage or Acrobat or some other external tool, then you could use this option here. And this simply exports all the items that you have selected. Then you would manually process those in your external tool, and then there's a mechanism to bring those OCR texts back into the case and tie them back into these documents here. But for this example, we'll go AVI Fine Reader. And this is the page we saw before, but because we're doing more than one document, there's a couple of extra options. So it works on, this is all multi-threaded, so it works on the number of cores you have in your machine, which we call workers. I have a 12-core machine, so I can set this to 10, and then that will run 10 processes at once. And the other option is skip OCR'd items. So if something's already OCR'd, you can skip those items so you don't have to redo them. And I know we have one that we did separately earlier, so I'm just going to leave that option on. And then we click on the OCR button. And once again, it goes through the process. So remember, this percentage now is over the 6 documents. And while it's processing these, the bigger documents are still processing, but the ones that are finished then move on to the next phase. And then this shouldn't take too long to do 6 items. All right, and that's done. And as expected, we've OCR'd 5 and we've skipped 1 because it's already been done. As I mentioned, there's a report if you need to look at that. So now we have the items OCR'd in the case. So let's go back to our example or demo case with the fraud, and we'll run some searches again. So the first one we looked at was roof, and what I can see here is the same 7 results that we had before. So there's no new hits after we've done the OCRing for the word roof. We had 26,000, 2 results there, and those are the same 2 that we had before. So again, nothing new. And rafters, we actually have a hit now. Earlier we had no hits for this. So we click on that item, and over here in the file name, I can see that we have an invoice for Bob's Construction. So this is looking promising. Let's open this document and have a look. So this is the preview tab. And as you can see here, this is an invoice from ABC Engineering to Bob's Construction, providing structural rafters for a sum of almost $26,000. So you can see why our search term for $26,000 didn't come up. If we had searched for this exact amount, if we knew that, then that would come up after the OCR process was done. So we have a couple more tabs here. As I said, the OCR tab is the extracted text. We have our hit in there as well. And the OCR preview is now just like our preview, but this text is now selectable and searchable in the document. All right, so that's sort of that part of the demonstration. Let's just go back to our PowerPoint slide. Now there are some limitations. So although we're using a world-leading tool, and there are other ones out there, they might not interpret the text correctly. So for example, a 1 might look like a lowercase l or a capital I, a 0 might look like an O, or vice versa. So if you're doing OCRing and you are searching for letters or numbers like this, keep that in mind that what you're searching for, you might not get any hits, but maybe something, the quality was not too good and it sort of didn't interpret it properly. Handwritten words may not OCR properly. Now, if they're written letter by letter like how text is written, then you get a better result. But, continuous joined words together in handwriting is usually pretty poor. The OCR quality is determined by the original document, and I've seen this on a number of cases. I've seen documents that the quality is so bad that it is kind of really hard to read, and the OCR engine actually did a really good job. And for some words that I couldn't make out, the OCR engine was able to process them, and you could go back and look at the poor document again, and you could actually work out what that word was. Now, saying that, I've seen documents that I could not read at all because quality was so bad and the OCR engine had no clue what to do with it. Also, as already mentioned, if you have hundreds of thousands of documents, doing that in Intella on a single machine would take some time to do. So if you do have a dedicated OCR platform like Abby Recognition Server or something else, then maybe using that technology to process your OCR and then bring the text back into Intella would be a lot quicker. And that's pretty much the presentation. Let me just go and look and see if we have any questions. And does not look like we have any questions. So I'd like to thank everyone for coming onto this presentation today. If you have not done so, have a look on our website and look for what we have coming up for the next presentations, and if they're of interest, register for those. Once again, have a nice day. Thank you very much.